almost there. Okay.
Okay.
I'll have to start recording. Okay, fire away.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Guam Board of Accountancy to order. It is 8:04. Present for the meeting are myself, Telling Taitano, Francis Quinto Baba, Sean Phillips, John Onodera, the chair, is on an excused absence, and we're hoping that Jenny Chu will be able to join us. We also have present Dave Sanford, our executive director. And Dave, can you introduce our guests?
Yeah, we have Nancy Corrigan, the Pacific Region Director for NASMA for our region, and Dan Dustin, who's the State Board Relations with NASMA.
Welcome. Just want to note that our meeting has been duly noticed as required. Is that correct, Dave?
Yes.
Okay.
I can do a screen share here so we can start the so to find the right screen. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes. So Dave did send out the board packet earlier, and when you're ready, if I can get someone to move to approve the minutes of the July meeting.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no objections, the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is a report on our endowment fund. Dave?
Yeah, this is the old business, the Guam Accountancy Endowment Fund that we created to support the visiting professor program at the University of Guam. Right now we have $4.5 million in there. As you can see, the market continues to go up and down. So as of the middle of August, we're back to where we were at the end of June, and it's just going to continue to happen. But the $4.5 million, even with the year-to-date 34,000 in fees that have been taken out, plus we've paid a few thousand for the visiting professor that was part of the MAC program. Billy taught one of the MAC classes during the summer, so we're hanging in there fund-wise, and we hope to make another contribution before the end of this year. Bring it up close to 5 million. So at that point, so far, we seem to be doing okay from an earnings standpoint. This year is 11.7 year to date. Inception wise, I think we're just a little under 6%. So in that sense, we're kind of tracking according to our 20-year investment plan with the average return rate 6%. So that's about it for the fund. I did talk with Jason Katigbik. He's been teaching out at UOG, and he said that Roseanne, Dr. Jones, was actually finally appointed as the dean. So we now have a dean and a new University of Guam president. Anita is the president now. So I'm hoping that we can move forward with our program now that we have a dean that we can meet with and discuss, going forward. Some of the issues we had with the program previously. And John, who's a member of the I forget what the committee is. It's the advisory committee for the SBPA, the School of Business and Public Administration. They're supposed to have a meeting sometime in the near future, and once that happens, I'm sure they'll meet with the new dean, and then we'll hopefully move forward with the program for this coming summer. Does anybody have any questions about the fund or the visiting professor program?
Yeah, Dave, how much was taken out for the visiting professor over the summer?
I think we paid 5,000 to Billy for the courses he taught in the MAC program.
Was that,
Okay.
those were virtual classes, Dave?
Yes, the MAC program is a fully online program. So it's usually, I think, in the evening. Most of the participants, I think the majority are full-time working. So it's an online program, mostly conducted in the evenings, as far as I know. Okay. Any other
And Dave, that
questions?
came out during this past quarter?
Yes.
Okay.
From the information I got with Jason, I think the first cohort's due to graduate this fall. So they started last year. Welcome, Jenny. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Good. Finally have you back, have you on.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right, no problem. Any other questions about the visiting professor program? If not, we can move on.
So the next item on the agenda are the applications for initial certification and licensure. It looks like we
Yep.
have, sorry? Yeah,
Nope,
it looks
go
like we have 19 requests for active licenses, most of them non-attest except for one attest, and the balance of 8 are for inactive.
Right. Yeah,
it
initial
doesn't-
licenses.
Doesn't look like there's any Guam candidates in this bunch.
Not in this bunch, no. And there's only 27 total. I think that's because the staff's been pretty busy with the renewals for the last 2 months. So our renewal date's June 30th. So we've gotten mostly over the hump of renewal. So
Okay, and when you're ready, if I could get a motion to approve the applications.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay,
okay, thank you.
if there's no objections, the motion carries. The next item on the agenda are requests for extensions. I believe we have 3, Dave?
Correct, yes. The first one, Mr. Abdelazim, it's just a guy who's been working really hard and is ultimately passed most of the exam, but lost some credit along the way. He's asking for an extension through December because he's planning to complete the exam by then. So basically, we're extending his audit credit so that he can complete the exam. I think he has one more part to pass and he'll be complete. I don't have a problem with that. He's taken the exam quite a few number of times, so he seems pretty dedicated. Miss Nada, the last 2 were recommended from NASBA. Miss Nada is a lady who's had a real medical problems, and she's requesting for FAR credit to extend through the end of the year. I think she's got one more part to pass, but she had to go to the States for surgery. So she submitted all her medical records. It's a definite, not a problem I'd want to have. So we have no problem with that. And the last one is requesting his BEC credit extension just until August because he's already passed his final part, but 2 months after his 18 months. So he's only really 2 months past his 18-month deadline. So I have no problem extending that credit, considering all the things we're going to be extending in the future. So these are the only 3 that we have at this point. We can discuss a little bit about credit extensions further down the line here, but these are the people we're going to be extending credit for. Does anybody have any questions about these guys?
Now, do you need approval for this one too, Dave?
Not really, no. Yeah, it's from an informational standpoint, so the board knows. Okay. So we can
And then-
jump down to,
We'll move down
Good.
to general discussions and announcements. Dave?
yeah, down on page 40. So the candidate care report. It's kind of interesting that there were 40-something thousand sections given, and there's only 162 complaints. So that's a little less than a half a point, 0.5% of issues. But again, 25% of the issues are technical, and 25% are candidate error. So that accounts for half of them. Supposedly, the technical issues are what's going to go away with the new exam. We hope so, but otherwise, it's pretty much the norm. But a 0.5% of problems is not bad for an entire quarter, I would say. This is just an informational issue. Then we can move on to the performance, candidate performance. As always, for Guam, we have a little bit lower pass rate and average score, but we're in the top 5 for number of candidates and number of sections taken. That's usually because we have so many foreign candidates. But it's kind of interesting to note that our sections increased from 14 to 1,700 in Q2. Our candidates were up a little, but from a performance standpoint, what is kind of interesting, and this is almost an inverse relationship to the national overall average. We have 30% that are enrolled or other, which means people that are actually in the process of completing their education, versus 10% advanced degrees. And when we look at national, you see that this is pretty much reversed. And we have 92% foreign address, which means English is a second language for most of these people, versus in-state, which is way out of proportion to the national average, which is about 10% foreign and 90% domestic. So if we look compared to the national overall average, where you can see the pass rate's a little higher, the average score is actually only about 2 points higher than our average score. And for the first time in a while, sections and candidates increased on a national level, which is obviously due to the people trying to get done with BEC before it goes away. And then on the performance side, again, they have 10% enrolled other, 20% advanced degrees. So they're way ahead of us in that sense. And then the foreign addresses is up to 16, 17% versus 70% domestic. So that truly accounts for most of the differences. Also, we tend to have more of an aged candidate population relative to the overall domestic age, so a few years younger than us most of the time. So on the whole, there's only 4 states that are ahead of us in terms of candidates and sections, which is typically California, Texas, Illinois, and New York. So, but on the whole, if you compare our scores with a lot of the other jurisdictions, there's 10 or 11 of them that are even less than us, and they're all domestic. So considering that 90% of our candidates are foreign, I think that's not a bad performance overall.
Dave, did the testing center close down because of the typhoon, or did they get through it?
They were closed for a little while because they were out of power, but couldn't run the generator forever. But other than that, they've been open, and they gave I think 50 something CPA exam sections in the last in June. So they're still open for business. So the typhoon was an issue, but not for long. And they are giving more exams now. I think that's what we're seeing is the influx, the crescendo of the wave, so to speak, to get in before the next exam kicks off. So in January, that's what we're seeing. So anybody have any questions on performance? It's par for the course. Okay. Then we can get into the fun part, which is the application deadline for BEC. And the first day for the new exam. Pat sent the letter out with this schedule. And of course, the deadlines are established by jurisdictions based on a number of issues like how long an NTS lasts and those kind of things. But we're in with the 90, what is it, Dan? Maybe 96% of everybody else. There's only a few that deviate, but the first time BEC applicants, the last date to apply is October 1st, and for re-exam November 12th. And I think the cutoff date for the actual exam is December 15th or something, or close to that. There will be no exams given after that date, period. And then the first day you can apply for new disciplines in the new exam is November 27th. So we won't start getting applications for the new exam until the end of November. Meantime, I think we're going to see a more influx of people trying to get past the BEC before it goes away. I think that's the biggest number of sections are going to be in BEC. But we're in with all the other majority of the other jurisdictions. We all have the same dates, so I don't think we'll have any issues with that. The next thing we have is the AICPA initiative letter about reinstating credit. I guess some would say this is the quote amnesty program, if you will. And we've discussed that a few times in the past. The board has, and I think we have gone with the CBT recommendation that one allows the executive director to extend credits based on a case-by-case basis, which is what we're doing and have been doing, but we're not up for this wholesale quote unquote amnesty initiative, because we extended all credits from people, all of our candidates that actually had existing credits. Anybody who asked during COVID, we extended all of them all the way through December 31st, 2022. So anybody who was actually interested and requested got an extension for the entire 2.5 years of COVID, which is why we're not all that keen on just granting a blanket amnesty or whatever you want to call it, a reinstatement of credits for all of these people. So we will continue at this point to do what we're doing now on a case-by-case basis. So anybody who asks will have a consideration relative to what's being granted for people as of January 1st, 2024. Going up to, I think, the 30 months, but we're not going to do any kind of blanket reinstatement. That's kind of where we stand on that issue, even though also kind of noted that there's not a whole lot of national firms on this list or international firms. They're all more regional, a few national, but mostly regional. So in that sense, I think that's where we stand on this issue. And the last thing we have, unless anybody has any questions or want to discuss that.
I'm good.
Okay. And the last thing we have is the financial statement. And, we added another 100,000 or 70,000 in renewal fees in July, which is the month after the June 30th deadline. So our renewals are up even more than I thought they would be, considering all the issues we've had with COVID and where we stand. So we've between that and the application fees, which continue to increase due to the new exam, I think that's going to drop off early next year. But for now, we're running 293,000 excess revenues for the year. We combine that with the TCD that matured that we're holding. I think we can put 400,000 into the endowment fund this year and still be okay. We'd still have $1 million, which is close to 3 years, 2.5 years worth of expenses in reserve. So
We're going to try to do that before the end of the fiscal year, Dave, or?
yes, I think we need to, because when I was talking with the staff rep in Senator Joe's office, SA, he made a comment about how they were going to put something in the Budget Act about not allowing all of the carryovers for a lot of the agencies. Because they found that they were requesting increases even though they had carryovers from prior years they hadn't spent. So he made a comment that if we're going to use excess, we should use it before the end of this year. So the new budget is liable to have some kind of provision that prevents carryovers, which means you'd have to have reauthorization for your appropriations. We don't get any Guam revenues. All of our revenues come directly to us through the fees and licenses, but we are subject to legislative appropriation. So in that sense, that's why when you look at this financial, our revenue budget's 537,000, but our expenditures are 789, because the legislature continued to adopt our budget from 2019. They never changed it. So we don't have much choice, even though we submit our budget every year. They kind of appropriate what they want to. So but we're doing fine, and I think we can contribute to 400,000, and that'll put us up to the 5 million mark, and that should hold us for a while, and then we'll see how we go forward next year. Our revenue budget for next year is still around the 500,000, because I'm pretty sure we're going to see a drop off in the exam revenues initially due to the new exam, plus the score holds, etc., that are going to be several months long. So does anybody have any questions about the financials? You can see here we did have an actual increase in sections, even though we did have a decrease in candidates applications from May to June. And that typically is the re-exam sections. Re-exam sections are running at 2 to 1 to the new first time exams. So, and those re-exam sections are going to fall off quickly when we come to the new exam, I'm pretty sure. So that's kind of where we're at. No questions? Okay. So Nancy, Dan, Nancy, you want to tell us what your real job is? And
Yes, I will do that. I first want to thank you so much for having us here and for accommodating our time zone, which we were happy to do whatever and comply with your regular meeting. But anyway, we really do appreciate it. That's very, very kind of you. So in my real job, I'm a California CPA. I'm also a California board member. I've been a past president twice. And in my practice, I merged my firm and then I quote unquote retired from that. I'm a sole practitioner and I do primarily work with nonprofits in my local area. So in addition to being Pacific Regional Director for NASBA and chairing some committees, that's kind of my real job. So yeah.
Well, that's great. Do you have any comments on our meeting or anything you'd like to bring up?
Well, I would like just to make a couple reminders that I think in a couple weeks on August 28th will be the next Pacific Regional call. So if you can have representatives present, hopefully for that. Those are, very, very important exchange of ideas and where we can all of our jurisdictions have issues going on. And so we can share ideas. The annual meeting in New York is October 29 to November 1st, and focus questions, I believe, have already been sent out, but NAS would like responses to those so they can compile information responses by October 13th. So those were recently sent, I think, to all EDs and board presidents and chairs. So, and remembering too that I believe NASBA always seems to have scholarships available. So if that's necessary, that's a consideration. March 25th through 27th in Nashville is an executive director and legal counsel conference. So maybe noting that for next year. And next year's regional meetings, there's an Eastern and a Western. We missed you, Dave, at the Western, but we know you went to Eastern, so that's good. Yeah. That's all good. That'll be in June, but of course, exact dates and location will be determined since it's a little ways off. So that's it for me, though. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
What about you, Dan? Comments, discussion?
Yeah, I have to tell you, I was really looking forward to, reciprocating with you and getting up at 2 a.m. to participate on this meeting. So accommodating our time zones, I really appreciate. But at the same time, I figure after all the years we've been working together, one day of payback would have been fine. I will tell you, I did a little bit of prep work prior to this meeting, and then you sent out the minutes of your last meeting. I said, Dave's hit all the high points, and you guys have discussed a lot of what's going on with respect to the examination and ELE and all the things that are happening right now, that it's just great that, you've kept everybody informed about some of the things that are going on. The only thing I would add, you had the comment earlier about the AICPA letter to NASBA regarding, I think it's being called the Credit Relief Initiative now, also known as Amnesty. But it sounds more like a federal program now to me than anything, but that's just me. The AICPA actually reached out to what they call the major firm group, which is the top 100 firms in the country other than the international firms. So that's why you don't see, and I've had that question raised a couple of times by folks asking why some of the international firms aren't listed on that letter. And it's just the population that the AICPA reached out to. But again, appreciate Dave, you giving us the opportunity to log in and be here. Thank you.
Funny that the acronym is CRI for cry, right?
Hadn't even looked at that. Thank you.
Yeah. We went over that even through the COVID times. We had about 3,000 candidates that were stuck, and we've had many of them that were stuck for 2 years. And recently, we've actually approved credit extensions for some of those that have come back and asked for it, but we just don't see that we can do a blanket thing. But otherwise, I think on the whole, we're not denying anybody who's actually interested in coming back.
Dave, I do have one question. With respect to the change in the UA model rules earlier this year, going from 18-month conditional credit window to 30 months, have you made any determination, or is that planned in the future on how Guam's going to approach that?
Yes, I'm in the process of rewriting the rules at this point. After our experience with the legal issues of the cheating candidate we had, and the $30,000 worth of legal fees it cost us just to deal with the person who actually never showed up for the hearing they requested. We decided to rewrite the whole thing. So I'm basically rewriting all of it. And the board had discussed going to 24 months a long time ago and settled on that. But then the 30 months came out, and I don't see that we're going to do anything different from anybody else. It doesn't make any sense to, because it just raises other issues you don't want to deal with in the future if you have that difference. But I'm basically planning to put the 30 months into the rule change along with a number of other things.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, and we should get that done. We'll have to do it by introducing a bill that gets passed by the legislature, which is now easier than making a rule change. The administrative process method, but we should be able to get it done within the next 3 to 6 months is what I'm looking for. Okay. I should say that for everybody that Dan kind of has a good understanding of the executive director job, because he was pretty much it for New York for quite a while. So in that sense, I think he has a good appreciation for what the boards go through, which is sometimes good and sometimes not so good. So thank you for that, Dan. Okay. I don't have anything else at this point other than anybody who wants to go to the annual meeting in New York, let me know, and I'll do the scholarship request as soon as the registration opens up.
Okay. So if there's
Okay.
no other business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Okay. There's no objections. The motion carries, and thank you again, Nancy and Dan, for joining us.
Meeting's
Thank
adjourned.
you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Okay, everybody have a good day or evening as the case may be.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Aye.